Hold on.
No.
Oh, you're not starting?
No,
well, now it's starting.
Charles Booth, I did ask Charles this morning, actually, if he would, and he said, oh, yeah, I'll be glad to give you an interview,
That's
man.
good. That's good. Yeah,
We could even do that at the office.
Yeah,
you know, him
that'd be
sitting
good.
at his
That's
computer.
That's the right time to do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Enough. Okay. So tell us about yourself.
My name is Jim Cable. I'm the Environmental Control Supervisor for the Hazard Emergency Branch Office of Abandoned Mine Lands.
How long have you been working for AML?
I've been here about 11 and a half years.
What's your background in Cable?
My background before I came to Abandoned Mine Lands was in sales and marketing. I've worked as a manufacturer's rep. I worked in a bank. Did a lot of different things before I came to Abandoned Mine Lands, but my father had mined coal when I was a young fella, and I grew up around a surface mine and had some experience as far as that goes. And I've been blessed by coming to Abandoned Mine Lands. It's been a great home for me. Met some great people, worked with great people, and I enjoy my job every day. I never is there a day that I dread going to work.
Yeah. Tell us about this site, the John Burnett site.
This was a big slide and a big problem. The city of Hard Burley, or I call it a city, it's a village of Hard Burley, really below us, was an old coal camp town in the early 1900s. They say at one time maybe 500 to 700 miners and their families lived here in Hard Burley. There was a lot of coal mined from this area, and when the coal company left, they left some problems behind that are relative to old mining. And our division has worked on several problems here in this area. We've worked on drainage issues, worked on multiple slides in this area. Matter of fact, there are two other very large slides on this same mountain that we're standing on right now that we've worked in the past years. So when we got a call saying that mud was coming out, there'd been a big rain, that mud was coming out, and there was a big slide coming down on Hard Burley, I don't believe any of us were surprised. Right. We've been through that before. But just the sheer size of this was pretty hard to imagine.
Yeah, talk about that. So when you first visited here and you actually got, after you get past the initial washout down at the bottom in the mud, you got up here and actually looked at the slide. I mean, how did that strike you?
When we walked up on the top of the slide, which is below where we're standing now, but when we walked out, there was a scarp or a break in the ground there that was 5 or 6 feet high. That's a pretty amazing sight to see, where the ground is set down that far. The area was very wooded, and it was hard to see a lot of the other impacts that it was having at the time. But just that scarp alone, we could see water running into the scarp, and we knew that it would get worse. It had already slid down into a very narrow drainage below the slide. Mud had come out in the road in the village of Hard Burley. It had pushed into 2 mobile homes. It had blocked the road. It had already caused some problems there, and we knew that it would get worse if we didn't do something pretty quick.
Just guessing, how many people and how many homes were impacted, would you say?
I would say that there were probably 6 homes that were directly impacted when that happened, but there were potentially 3 or 4 times that many that could have been impacted if the slide was able to worsen without us doing something.
And pretty much the entire community, every individual.
Exactly. The road, there's only one way in and one way out of Hard Burley, so if the road's blocked, everybody's blocked in. That was something we had to deal with through the entire project.
Talk about the planning phases for this and the challenges that your team faced.
The first challenge was that we had to do something quickly. So our design team, our technical staff at the Hazard Emergency Branch, they went to work straight away. We got out, we put together a project with some drainage and some cleanup. Ray Shepard was the inspector on that project. Ray came out with the contractor Keith Miller. They cleaned mud away from the houses, opened the road, reestablished the drainage, got the water flowing again in a manageable way. On that phase 1 project, we installed some weirs, gabion weirs, above the village of Hard Burley to stop the silt and to check the water as it went down. That helped a lot. It helped to make things safer along Hard Burley Road and the houses there, the old coal camp houses along Hard Burley Road.
What about diversion at the top? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the diversion at the top was one of the biggest pluses of the whole project. You know, at the top of the slide was a bench at the hazard number 7 coal seam level. Water was pouring out of the hill above that coal seam or on that coal seam. There had been some old augering done along it. The auger holes were producing water. It was just a swamp along that bench. And one of the things that led to the slide was that water was able to pond up and eventually leach through the material below, and finally it broke loose, lubricated the slide, and it broke out. So the first thing, after we gained access to the top of the slide along a really steep gas well road, one of the first things that our contractor did was that he dug and used a rock hammer to hammer out a ditch in that bench. It went about 600 feet along that number 7 bench to a slide called the Samuel Salyer slide that we had done some years ago. Actually, the contractor on phase 1, Keith Miller, he had taken that slide out many years before that. So it was a strip to rock slide. So we took that water out to that, ran it over that strip to rock slide, diverted it away from the slide that we had right at this point, and we were able to let this dry up. And that was a key component. When the slide dried up, it laid there until we could put together a phase 2 project, and we could get a contractor in here to remove the slide material.
So talk about phase 2 then.
All right, phase 2. Phase 2 was bid in the wintertime. I remember the pre-bid was on one of the coldest days I can remember. And we had a lot of contractors show up. It was in the teens, 14 or 15 contractors show up to look at the job. In our area, contractors that used to work for coal companies that did contract reclamation, things of that nature, they're out of work because the coal industry has been down. And so we've had a lot of contractors come out and look at our jobs in the past few years. Because of the size of this job and the dollar amount of this job, I believe that drew in a lot of people. When phase 2 was bid out to Jackson & Jackson, we knew that they were an able contractor and had done a lot of jobs for us in the past, and we knew we had a good contractor. When you do any job, you have 3 factors: a good homeowner, or you have a homeowner, you have a contractor, and you have an inspector. And if you have just one of those that's a good one, it's not a good thing. If you have 2 of those that are good, it can be a pretty good job. And if you have 3 that are good, you can have a really good job. So we had on this second phase, we had an inspector named Dwayne Bates. Dwayne is a really good on-the-job inspector. He looks ahead and he sees ways to do things. He's probably a little bit aggravating to the contractors because Dwayne likes things done his way sometimes, but he generally sees things in a good way. So we had a good inspector, we had a good contractor in Fred Jackson, and the people of Hardburley, they were thankful that we were here and going to remove this slide and remove this danger from them. So we had the factors going into it to have a good job, and it turned out that we did.
You would say this was very successful in this project?
It was very successful. You know, besides just a few little maintenance items going in behind some of those weirs that we left in at the bottom of the hill, there's one right now that needs to be cleaned out. But it's doing its job. That's what it's supposed to do, is catch the silt, catch the debris, and if we have to come maintenance it every now and then, that's okay.
Talk about, Jim, a little bit about how it feels to work for AML and when you get to the end of a project like this.
One of the greatest things about working for AML is that you walk up in the beginning of a project and you see a landowner or community that has a problem, and you have a solution for them. It doesn't happen immediately. It goes through a lot of steps, and every step in the AML process is important. When you work as an environmental scientist, or as we used to call them, inspectors, you go out and inspect a complaint. That person tells you about their problem, and you go back and write it up, send it in to our home office. They do a mine history to make sure that it's mine related, and it goes through lots of people's hands. Dozens of people touch a project before the first blade is put in the ground. So all those behind the scenes people that aren't here today, getting to be on camera to tell about the project, we appreciate everything that they do. If they have to ensure that we have the permits that we need, all the design people. all of the engineers, the surveyors that come out and work. Just lots of people have. It's a big team effort.
You're really gracious. Talk about it from a personal level.
From a personal level, AML's been a great place for me to work, and I really enjoy going out in a place that's got a big slide against the back of the house. Not that I enjoy the slide, but I enjoy that we provide a great service and that we come out, hire a good contractor or bid it to a good contractor. We work with him hand in hand to clean the place up, and when we leave, it looks 100% different. I wouldn't say it looks like a national park, but sometimes it looks pretty good. And it's a good feeling to know that you help people, know that when somebody has a slide against their house, it may cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to take that danger away. And folks in East Kentucky, most of them don't have a few $100,000 laying around to do that. And so it's a great feeling when you can come in and really do a good thing for some people or community. It's a source of pride, and you can come back for many years. As I drive down the roads, I see projects that I've been involved with in the past, and it's a matter of pride for me.
That's what I was talking about. That's good, Jim. Thank you. You got anything else you want to add?
No, thank you. Thank you, Fred. This was a great job.
Yeah,
He is, isn't he?
yeah, he just